Hello, everyone. My name's Emma Dunwell, and welcome to the Speak Freely podcast. Today, my guest is someone who is very adept in British law, and given the times that we're in, I think that we could all use a bit of his advice. So I'm pleased to introduce Graham Moore. How are you today, Graham?
I'm very well, thank you. Slightly cooler than what you are because I'm sitting in a very cold cob cottage in Devon.
Oh, I'm very envious. It's very, very warm in this studio. So thank you so much for coming on. Just to get a bit of background, would you tell us about your journey into dubbing yourself Daddy Dragon?
Well, the Daddy Dragon one is an easy one. I obviously was always talking about England, the Constitution, our English common law on constitutional rights. And then people started to send me letters and different bits and pieces from social media. They were sending me letters saying Father Dragon, because the dragon was the original English flag. And technically it still is our flag, right? So before the St. George's flag, we had a griffin, right, which had two legs. And then people started calling me, obviously, Father Dragon. Then it went to Daddy Dragon. And that's how I actually got the name. And then it got Americanized into DD.
Well, that's a fun story. I mean, it's certainly a nickname that gets your attention, that's for sure. With the English Constitution Party, what would be your vision for a completely independent England? And how would we get there? And how does it differ from the current UK framework?
So how does it differ? It differs because you wouldn't be under a statutory union, right, which is created a British Parliament. You would go back to what's known as the common law union, and that happened in 1603. So for lots of people out there, that means that Scotland would run its own affairs, have its own parliament, completely separate from England. England and Wales are joined, but if the Welsh wanted complete independence, they could. It's entirely up to them. I believe in self-determination for nations. So just to make sure everyone's aware of this, what happens then is you've only got English constituent members of Parliament in an English Parliament, and they're only talking about English law, etc. You would, because what we propose is you void the Acts of Union. It would mean the British Nationality Act of 1948 and 1981 is null and void with it. And that is that's what took away the protection. So the reason why you're seeing, for example, lots of foreigners in councils, running councils, foreigners in the police, even foreign judges and foreign parent judges, which means their parents were not born of English parents. The reason you're seeing all of that is because the British Nationality Act of 1948 and 1981 repealed, unlawfully, ultra-vires, part of our English constitution that protected our culture. And what you would do, it would be the people's reset. So there's a big difference between British and English. British is the Great Britain is an island, is the easiest way of explaining it. And England, Scotland, technically Wales is a nation, but that is Great Britain. Great Britain is an island. It is not a nation. So when people refer to the British Parliament, it's a union parliament, and the nationality of British is what's known as a legal fiction created in 1948 and 1981. Once you remove them, you start to bring the power back to the people.
Well, speaking of unions, you've called the European Union undemocratic. Could you elaborate on why you think that and how in some areas it might directly oppose English law?
Well, it opposes English law in many ways, but if you was to look at a separate entity of the European Union, which is the European Convention on Human Rights, the difference between the English Bill of Rights and the European Convention on Human Rights is the European Convention on Human Rights are qualifiable rights. That means if there is some sort of emergency, the government creates the emergency, and the law courts then can then say we removed that right because there's an emergency. The English Bill of Rights, there is they are inalienable. You cannot take them away. The government can't create an emergency and take them rights off you. But here's the kicker: people don't realise that the English Bill of Rights came from a convention parliament. It is more powerful than the European Convention on Human Rights. The way our judges are trained is completely wrong. They are misinstructed because of the slow march through the institutions of Marxism and communism. And just to make sure everyone's aware of this, fascism and communism are both on the left. So Nazis and communists are both on the left, because they're both authoritarian. The English, or Englishmen like me, do not believe in authoritarian government.
There are so many people screaming for us to leave the ECHR, and the government turns around and some politicians turn around and they give really long, wordy answers about how that's not possible. And then there are other politicians, particularly more on the right, who are saying, no, it is possible. It's just that no one has the guts. Who is right, and can we actually leave the ECHR? And if we did, what would that look like?
We can 100% leave. Just to make sure everyone's aware of this, we should never have been in the European Union in the first place. The English Bill of Rights has a clause called the Supremacy Clause, and it was unconstitutional, ultra vires, to enter into a European Union or a European Court of Human Rights. Strasbourg should have absolutely no authority over English people whatsoever. Whoever says that they just haven't got the guts is absolutely true. I've got one book here, which is the Halsbury's Laws of England, right, which tells you about our constitution. So just to make sure everyone's aware of this, people out there saying we haven't got a constitution. Well, if we haven't got a constitution, why is it do we live in a constitutional monarchy? How were the courts created? And how was the judiciary created? How have we got a separation of powers, which we have got? And the answer is because we have a constitution. So the next thing that the lefties normally try to tell us, when I say lefties, I mean fascists or communists, they then turn around and say, we haven't got a written constitution. So I'll say, well, if we haven't got a written constitution, why is it in that? Why is it in that, right, which is the statutes? Why is it in the Hamlin Lectures, Sir William Wade, Constitutional Fundamentals, all in writing, by the way? And why have we got the common law constitution by Sir Justice Laws? And all of this is available. Anyone can go and read it and understand what it is. So the answer is our judges have been misinstructed, and a lot of them, and I'll give you an example of someone who is currently in power, Keir Starmer, is a committed Marxist. This book tells you that he should be purged from our system, right? It actually says that. So considering that he's a committed communist or Marxist, what is he doing in government, and what is he doing as Prime Minister? And just to make sure everyone's aware, it's not just the Labour Party. It's the Conservative and Union Party are also members of the Fabian Society, committed Marxists. Sadiq Khan, who we arrested in 2018, and the citizen's arrest, he is subverting the English constitution. So all of these people that say, well, how can we actually leave? The easiest way to leave everything, including the United Nations, is to void the Acts of Union. That's the easiest way of doing it. And there's a massive difference between repeal. So lots of people out there that don't really understand the law, including people like Rupert Lowe, and many others, talk about repealing acts that have caused problems in our country. Repeal is not the answer, because you get the same problems. When you left the European Union, they should have voided the European Communities Act of 1972. They didn't. They repealed it. And because they repealed it, it's still causing us problems now. So you void it, it means abolish, and that means it was never law. Anything created under that authority is null and void with it. And that's the difference between void and repeal.
By the sounds of that, obviously, we have fallen. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to work out, but even more with what you've just described, we have fallen so far from what English law originally was, what it was supposed to be, the country it was supposed to create, the family unit that it was supposed to support and foster, that we just don't have anymore. We used to be a meritocracy, not anymore. How do you view the current establishment climate at the moment? I mean, there's so many things to talk about. We've got the online harms bill, we've got the asylum hotels, we've got. I mean, just look at Lucy Connolly, a tweet. We were talking about this earlier on the phone privately, but when we were talking about Lucy Connolly and Ricky Jones's case, now unfortunately, he, like, to our disdain, he did absolutely everything right, and he just went no comment, no comment all the way through, and he managed to get a not guilty on a direct incitement of violence. Whereas Lucy Connolly, who probably would be less adept in law, more likely to go along with whatever her solicitor says, ended up getting banged up. What do you make of all of this?
Well, there's a number of things that you've brought up there. So, in relation to Ricky Jones, it's the basic is he did everything right, right? In other words, he didn't say anything. You have the right to remain silent, because if you open your mouth, even saying I'll have a cup of tea, they will use all the incriminating questions against you in front of a jury, right? So you say nothing. He did everything right. He went for a jury trial and he persuaded a jury of his peers to find him not guilty. And there are two things in English law in relationship to a criminal charge: actus reus, which means the actual crime, tick the box, did you commit that crime? And then there is something else which is called mens rea. Mens rea is about intent, right? So he persuaded the jury that he did not intend to incite violence, and they believed him. It's as simple as that. So Lucy Connolly, on the other hand, right, simply took advice off a British solicitor, a British barrister, disgusting, idiotic advice to plead guilty. And that's exactly what she did. And what she needed to do was to, as soon as she was arrested, don't say a word. They would have threatened her with bail. I've had a number of cases in the background, which I won't, I mean, one or two of them I could go into, but one of them was to do with the right to keep and bear arms. And someone got arrested with an item on him, which just happened to be an extendable baton. He sacked his solicitor, he sacked his barrister, he done exactly what I told him. He put that to the judge. He said, I want to see a jury. The judge said, what is it that you're claiming? He said, I'm claiming my right to self-defense. And there was never any intention for me to use this as an offensive weapon. It was always defensive under my rights, under the English Bill of Rights. What happened? The judge didn't even call the jury in. He found him not guilty, right? Because he listened, he understood, and he said, I'm going to do exactly as you tell me. And he went bang and done it. I've got another one doing the same thing, exactly the same. Well, not exactly the same, slightly different, but it's on the same principle. My point is, Lucy Connolly was wrongly advised by British solicitors, British barristers. She should be taught this in school. You have the right to remain silent. If you open your mouth at any time, you are convicting yourself. Don't say a word. And all these people that are sitting out the back there say, yeah, but I had nothing to hide. I had this. Listen, police constables don't care, right? They only want to convict you and put you behind a door. That's it. That's their job, right? Didn't used to be like that. It is now, right? But that's what they did. So for all those people out there, you know, sitting there grimacing about Ricky Jones, he taught you what your rights are. He understood it. He understood his English common law rights and his statutory rights better than most of the general public. That's not his fault. That's the fault of the people not listening to people like me. And we're trying to tell you, it's the same as when you get all these, the auditors go out. Some of them people are fantastic, some not so good, but one of them was so good, I used one of their clips in defense of someone else in a court case, and the judge threw the whole thing out because the police officer swore at him, right? In fact, he said, show me your ID or F off, right? So I'm obviously being polite because it's your channel, right? And then I used the actual clip in a court case. And I said, it's not an offence to swear in public,
Yeah.
right? So, and all of a sudden the judges are like, no, we agree. And then I brought all the actual real law from the High Court, presented it, and the guy, they said no case to answer, and he walked out.
So, when it comes to the establishment providing solicitors, do you think that that's one of the stages in which it's going wrong? Do you think that if we were to get really conspiratorial, do you think that the establishment would deliberately supply solicitors to people that they disagree with, people typically on the right of politics, like Lucy Connolly, to get them to trip up and make the wrong decisions? Do you think that they would have maybe supplied Ricky Jones with someone a bit better?
I don't know the ins and outs of Ricky Jones. All I know is that he didn't speak to the police. It was as far as I'm aware, it was a no comment interview, and he did everything right. But just to make sure I'm clear on this, do I think the government will stitch people up? Yes, they stitched me up years ago, 30 years ago, which is when how I got into law in the first place. Just think about Lucy Letby.
Yeah.
Lucy Letby is completely innocent. She's a hard-working nurse looking after babies. Her defence was crooked, the prosecutor was crooked, and the judge was crooked. Because if I had been a judge in that case, I would have got to a certain point and expected from the defence team no case to answer. It was never put to the judge, and then they just carried on with the nonsense what it was. So.
Yeah.
She's been completely stitched up. So, I mean, one of the things that aggravates me slightly is everyone talks about Lucy Connolly, Lucy Connolly, Lucy Connolly. You want to be speaking about Lucy Letby, Lucy Letby, Lucy Letby. She's the one with 9 whole life sentences.
So are you of the mind that Lucy Letby was perhaps positioned as the fall guy for a broader theme of malpractice in the NHS?
Absolutely. And when I was running in Runcorn and Helsby, because the hospital came into the constituency, part of what I was telling people about on the streets was Lucy Letby is innocent and she needs people in Parliament bringing up her case and talking. So I know that Davis was one of them, was bringing it up, etc. But at the end of the day, more people need to understand she was a whistleblower telling people what's going wrong. There are so many things wrong with that case, and this is a complete and utter miscarriage of justice. So when people talk about Lucy Connolly, that's a distraction to me. It's Lucy Letby is the person that we should all be getting round.
Yeah. And you mentioned before that you yourself have been set up by the establishment. Could you tell us that story?
Well, that goes back 30 years ago. I was I was arrested for cracking 128-bit banking encryption on a 186 laptop. Anyone out there knows anything about computers, they will tell you what a 186 laptop is. Like it's one of the most ancient computers you can get. Yet in 24 hours, I cracked 128-bit encryption, and even with the most powerful supercomputers today, it'd probably take you about 300 years.
So just for the non-tech experts such as myself, what does that mean in simple terms? Does that mean you hacked something, or what does that mean?
They're saying that I broke their encryption codes, tapped into a nonsensical way of getting PIN numbers and credit card details for taking money out of the cash point machines. It was all a load of rubbish from start to finish. But the major point is of the whole thing. There were 3 participating informers that all moved away from it. So in other words, the police had set the whole thing up. And one of the things was supposed to be one of my best friends. I was in a hotel with him with 8 prostitutes snorting cocaine all night.
Oh my goodness.
Lucky my wife knew me well enough. She went, my ex-wife I should say now, but she went, he would never do that. That's not. So everyone else was saying, oh, and they was reading the media, right? Oh, look what they're saying about him, right? This is a guy called Kenny Noy, right? Let me just make sure I'm clear on this. I'm supposed to be his best mate, spending a night in a hotel with 8 prostitutes snorting Charlie all night, right? I don't take
Mm.
Charlie, and I certainly don't do prostitutes, right? And especially with other people in the room. Just to make sure everyone is clear on this, right? I have never met Kenny Noy. To this day, I don't know him. I don't want to know him. That's how much bullshit that case was.
Wow, so he was framed as had been pictured as your like best friend,
Yeah.
and you've never even met the bloke.
No.
I mean, obviously, I can gather, and people that follow you can gather why they would want to set you up. But why would they want to set you up in your words?
In that particular case, the only reason they tried to set me up was someone else that I knew. And what they wanted to do was to set up Kenny Noy and this other person for particular reasons. One of them was because Kenny Noy had killed a police officer in self-defense and got not guilty, right? So they've charged him, and he's gone to court for killing a police officer, and it was self-defense, right? So the police then want to try and set him up and then set this other guy up, and because for various reasons I knew this other guy, that's where it all come from. In other words, it was complete nonsense from start to finish.
And how high up do you think the corruption goes? I mean, constantly we have globalist organizations looming over us and clearly getting their, tentacles into English law and British law and just the Western world in general. Do you think the corruption goes right to the top?
Very much so. Years ago in the 70s, there was a massive operation against police corruption. I can't remember what it was called now. It's on the tip of my tongue. But again, they arrested some police officers, but even then, it went much higher. Politicians, lords are all corrupt. The lobbyists are corrupt. The king himself is corrupt in what he's doing. I mean, technically, he's abdicated under English law because of what he's doing currently, which is some positive things towards other faiths, which he shouldn't be doing. His oath was for Christianity, and particularly to protect the Protestant religion, which he is not doing. So technically, under if you want to call it the rules of the Convention Parliament of the Glorious Revolution, he's abdicated. You don't have to do it by writing. You don't have to do it by formal words. You can do it by deed. And that is what the Glorious Revolution resolved. And they resolved that he abdicated by deed. The corruption goes to the highest levels, including the United Nations. It is mainly controlled by various groups in the background. Whether you call them corporations or not is another matter. But yeah, it is corrupt to the core. And the way I reference in it, if you look at an animal on a farm, everyone feeds off that animal in the community. And what you don't see are the parasites that are also feeding off that animal, right? And it's only once it's slaughtered, etc., you'll see the parasites. The problem with our nation is every 400 years, these parasites come in and feed and feed and feed until in the end, there's nothing left of the host, right? And that's exactly what's going on today.
Well, I mean, people that do follow the kind of globalist elite, the whole agenda 2030, globalist organizations, people who are skeptical about COVID lockdowns and jabs and things like this, it all seems to come back to the opinion that there is a very small group of people, very elite, who control what's going on at the moment. And it's not just laws and things, it's massive events that we would consider historical, like wars and, like we just said, pandemics and things like this. How do you see us getting our way out of this, if at all?
Well, the answer is very simple to get out of this, and I'm talking about for us as a country, meaning England. Avoid the Acts of Union, put our own people back into Parliament, and there are various ways of doing it. The English Constitution Party, for example, we don't have whips. Our manifesto is the English Constitution. There's none of this. We have this policy, that policy. We're about self-determination and putting the power back to the people. And you would go back to an English confederacy where each shire would in effect govern itself, right? Within a set of laws, which are the English laws and the constitutional laws. As long as they don't go outside of that, they're fine. So there are easy ways of sorting it out. But getting back, it is simple. It's simple, but they won't allow this message to be put to people. They've brainwashed. Just to give you an example, and it's the easiest way to express this to you is to say this. The USSR, the Soviet Union, in the Soviet Union, 1991, they dissolved the Union, right? Prior to that, everyone was called, because Joseph Stalin he was the commissar of identity, right? So he created Soviet. And for 70 years, people have been brainwashed and brainwashed and brainwashed. You are a Soviet. You are a Soviet. If you went up in front of any court in the USSR and stood up in front of a Soviet judge and said, I am a Russian, right? You went to the gulag.
Wow.
That's exactly what they do to me, right? All of the time. They take me down on platforms because what I'm telling people is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Void the Acts of Union, and you will eliminate British national identity, because there is no such thing. It is a union. It is not a country. And then once people realize, you then go back to your national identities, and you will go back then to your shire identities. So you'll be talking about Yorkshire, Lancashire, Norfolk, Devon, right? Everyone will understand that they belong to that community. And the only time those areas come together in defense of England, not other nations, certainly not Israel, right? So I'm not a Zionist. I'm not interested in Israel. I'm interested in England, right?
Yep.
So once people, and that's what people have to understand with, give you an example, the Americans, right? So Americans weren't known as Americans internally in America. They was known as Texans and Californians and Floridians, right? They wasn't known as Americans inside. They was only known as Americans outside of the USA. And the same is for the British. The British used to be known as Brits externally, even before the Acts of Union, and certainly before the British Nationality Act of 1948 and 1981. And the reason for that was because he was external. But if you spoke to anyone in this country, and more people are doing it, right? You must show your English flag, because that goes against the criminal cartels that are running this country. They're the ones who are shutting us down. That's why you're seeing councils going out pulling down English flags, because they don't want you to understand you are English.
Well, is this all, again, it all goes towards sort of Agenda 2030, where we're seeing an erosion of sovereignty, we're seeing an erosion of borders, nationality. You know, I mean, one of the most famous chants of Stand Up to Racism and Antifa is no borders, no nations, stop deportations. Or sometimes they change it to no borders, no nations, trans liberation, which I don't even know how those two things correlate, to be honest. But so what do you think the goal is? Because it seems that everything is just getting much more centralized. Do you think that the goal is, in fact, what people fear? One world government, one world religion, 15-minute cities, the whole shebang?
So people don't realize 15-minute cities come from Russia or from the Soviet Union, not from Russia, from the Soviet Union. So if you talk about someone like Alexander Selinshtein, right, who wrote 13 volumes on the USSR, and he had to get out of the USSR, and he was he claimed political asylum in the USA. He wrote that 13 volumes. He was asked a question: what is your biggest bugbear? What is it that really gets you? He said, people that conflate Soviet with Russian. I am a Russian, right? So the point I'm trying to get at with all of this, they want to destroy the borders. It is a criminal cartel. It is an oligarch of ruling class. They are not elite. There's nothing elite about them. Most of them are thick, right? King Charles III may have a great education, right? And he may speak the King's English, right? But he is as thick as two short planks, right?
Yeah.
His IQ, they're interbreds. His IQ is low, right? So people have to, so again, I see it all the time, and people have now started to realise that they must correlate British with Soviet. If you understand that, that's what the European Union was all about, right? The European Union is not a Nazi concept; it's a communist concept, right? So Putin has already told people, and he's done it twice or even 3 times in a speech, we are not part of your Roman Empire, right? We are Russian. Leave us alone, right? And now people have started to see it. So getting back to the global agenda, the way to take your country back is local action, is national action, right? So one of the reasons I've now moved into Devon is because there's a number of people here listening and they're saying, we need to take back Devon, we need to protect the farmers. And I've said, listen, I'll come there, I'll move there. I will show you how to do it, right? Yeah. But you've got to stop listening to British solicitors, British lawyers, because all these people are doing are feeding out of the trough, right? Because all of this money going into that system is all your tax money. That's all they're doing. To be fair, you shouldn't have to pay tax. What President Trump is doing is absolutely 100% correct. That you should have the economy where people pay to get access to your economy because your people are so skilled and so clever, right, that they've got money at the end of the month that they can spend it on anything they want.
Yeah.
Right. And then and he knows that. And that's what he's recreating. That's the way America used to be. And it's the way England used to be.
Yeah, and Trump certainly is gaining a lot of popularity as well, considering what he's doing with their immigration problem over there. I think we could use some of that strength over here.
Defiance Records, bringing you the best music from the movement. Ramise's Never Give Up and Mad Mix's You're So Right are now available as a double A side on Defiance. Plus, now out is the fantastic Ballad of a Toolmaker's Son from Trevor John, all available from Defiance Records, the Freedom label.
Did what he was told to do back then, and that's how he got the number 10.
Just combining your knowledge on immigration and English law, there's a couple videos that I would like to get your reactions to. Both of them have gone fairly viral. The first video, the gentlemen in the video are currently being looked for and assumingly will be charged. So I'd like to get your reaction to that one first. And then the second one is an incident that I was involved in myself, and the police discussions and meetings and everything are still ongoing. So I'd like to get your kind of unaltered reaction to what you think is going to come of that. So if you would mind just clicking the link of the first video that I sent you, and we will kill the mics while you react.
Fucking train, bro. Fuck off! You need to get off. Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! Fuck off! What do you mean fuck off? Fuck off! You need to get off the fucking train, mate. There's fucking kids about, man. Right, grandpa, let's go. What the fuck, mate? Get off the fucking train, bro. Put up your trousers. Go, put up your trousers. Put up your fucking trousers, mate. No. Go. Stop moving now! Fucking shit! Fucking dead! It's a mental head! Go! Fucking go! It's a mental head! I need to get off. Hold on, I didn't expect you to go. My bag, give my bag. Mate, can you hear me? What bag? You see what you're mad? What are you man? Dirty fucking cunt, motherfucker. No, man.
So first off, I'd just like to know what you make of that without me asking any questions.
I would say, well, first of all, if someone was standing on a train like that and there was women, children, or others present, you have the perfect right to make a citizen's arrest on that person.
And that is also, as it stands currently, in the eyes of the police as well?
Yeah. So what do you mean in line with the police as well?
So, like, does that currently still stand under, this nanny state that we're living in under Starmer?
It's common law and it's statutory law as well. The difference between you having powers, so you have powers as an English subject, because we are all responsible for the law and enforcing the law, right? That's the law of the land. The major difference between you and I mean you and a police constable, right, is for you to make an arrest, you have to see the crime being committed, right?
Right.
So if someone pulls out a knife in front of you and you pick up a bin and smash them in the face with it, right, that's self-defense. If you then get assistance or you can do it yourself and you can arrest them, you can do two things. You can call the police, right? Or you can somehow get their details, etc., and you can do a private prosecution. That's the law of the land, right? The difference between a police constable and you is, this is how it used to work. It's not so much now. When I say they used to do a 2-year probation period, they was not allowed. Police constables were not allowed to have access to members of the public unless they had passed, right? So when I say that they wasn't allowed to have unsupervised access to the public. So they always had to have a real police constable with them, and they was a probationer, right? At the end of 2 years, they had to take an exam, and it was a constitutional exam, and they had to pass it. They had to be approved by all the people that they'd been out with over a 2-year period. And at the end of that, and they took the exam, if they passed it, if they didn't pass it, they couldn't be a police constable. They then took an oath, and that oath entitled them to what's known as a warrant card. It is the warrant card that gives them authority as a police constable, nothing else, right? Not the uniform they're wearing, right? Not flashing lights and a blue car with flashing lights and sirens, right? It's the warrant card that they hold. And they can only make an arrest if someone rings them up or contacts them and gives them a statement, right? Which used to be called an information. A statement that says this person has committed this, they write that down as a statement from the person, and then because they haven't seen it, they can go and arrest that person for further questioning, charge them, do whatever they got to do, right? The difference between you and a police constable is you can only make a citizen's arrest if you see the crime being committed.
Right, I see. So after watching that video, and obviously it's gone viral, and the police are looking for the men involved, the men who subdued him, and obviously they're going to be looking to make arrests. So I'd like to get your opinion as to if you think they used excessive force, or if you think that all of their actions were justified, if they went too far, and what you think the charges will be, and how likely they are to get charged.
In today's climate, very likely to get charged. The problem they're going to have is their British solicitors, British barristers, and their legal advice. But under English constitutional law and their common law rights, they had a perfect right to subdue that person. If that person, who is clearly committing an offence, is fighting back, they can use reasonable force. As far as I can see, from that video, and it's only a short clip I've just seen, I couldn't see any unreasonable force. But again, it's always got to be proportionate. So if someone like that starts to retaliate against being arrested, etc., 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 and you have to increase your force levels, it is caused by the other person, not you, right?
Yeah.
So that's my answer to that. Are they likely to get arrested? The answer is, how long is a bit of string? But they just need the problem. These people, what they've done in law is absolutely correct. It is every single one of ours responsible. That's why we used to be known as a high trust society, You
Yeah.
couldn't go out committing offences. If you was, you know, you had your legs hanging out of a window and someone thought you was burgling their house, they or someone else's house, they'd grab hold of you, pull you out, and then someone would whistle. That's where, I mean, that's where.
Oh yeah. I remember when I was younger and I'd accidentally locked myself out of my house. I was coming back from school and I had to climb in through the window and someone was walking by and thought I was breaking in. And yeah, they come and grab me by the scruff of the neck, you know, but because that's how it was. It was more community based, wasn't it?
Correct. And that's the way we can easily go back to that. The problem is what they've put in place with the current police, and the way it operates. And again, we've already been successful in one court case. So getting back to reasonable force, for example, what people don't realise, for example, with the rape and torture gangs all over the country, we've got something called the Criminal Justice Act 1988, Section 134, torture. And all of the people that acquiesced or omitted or acted, in other words, allowed this to happen, can all be done for torture. Section 6 says it's a mandatory life sentence.
Wow.
So all of them people, but no one's talking. The only people who talk about it is us, meaning the English Constitution Party, just to make sure your audience is aware. Since 1988, since that act come out, over 2,000 deaths in police custody. I'm not talking about police contact. I'm talking about police custody, right? And not one of them police constables has ever been charged with torture. If you look at what happened to the 93-year-old man in Sussex, who got tasered, battened, pepper sprayed, and he died of his injuries in hospital. Right.
Oh my gosh.
But and by the way, he had one leg, he had dementia, and he was in a care home, and he was in a wheelchair. Right. Them two police officers faced the most minor of offences, which was not common assault, but something else. I can't remember what it was that they charged him with now. But the point being, they should have both been charged with under the torture laws, but they wasn't. So we need to take our justice system back. Right. And the way you do that is people like yourselves apply to be magistrates. Right.
Yeah.
And then so instead of inventing another set of courts, take our courts back. They're our courts. They don't belong to them. They don't belong to the state. They're our courts. And that's the only way you're going to do it. But there is a short-term thing. But getting back to that video, I can't see that they've done anything wrong whatsoever. In fact, the guy's committing an offence. He's in public. There's women on there. There's possibly children on there. He was causing also harassment, alarm, and distress by doing what he was doing, apart from just exposing himself. Right. So they had the right to arrest him as citizens of England.
Yeah.
Object.
And the second video I'd like you to react to is an incident I was involved in myself. So if you could just give that a watch through, and then I'd love to know your thoughts.
Fuck you! Fuck you! Fuck you!
Spitting on
Not
me.
speaking for me like this.
What the fuck is your
What
problem?
happened?
What's your issue, mate?
Yo, no good like this. What
what's your
happened?
issue? Why you-
Not
mate,
speaking
mate,
for me.
Mate, huh?
Yeah, what?
Mate,
Guys,
why you starting, bro?
Get out of here. What's going on?
Who's fucking started, mate?
Blood all over us.
Mate, get the fuck.
Why are you speaking like this for me?
I didn't say anything. Get away from me.
Not speaking for me like this. Guys, please.
Get away from me.
Not speaking for me like this. Dude,
I don't know who you are, mate.
Yeah.
Get the fuck
Why
away
do it
from
for
me.
me like this?
Get the fuck away from here,
Not
mate.
speaking for me like this. Guys, not speaking for me like this. Fuck you, bitch.
Huh?
Don't make me fuck you up
Don't
like
do
this.
that.
I swear.
You don't put your hands on any of
Yeah.
these people like.
I'll put you
Don't
down
look
again.
like
you
this
motherfucker.
for me.
What do you mean don't be like this?
Guys.
What is your problem?
Get the fuck away. Get the fuck off
What is your
right now.
problem?
Why are you
Fuck
going
off
for
right
me
now.
like this?
Fuck off right now, bro. Fuck off right now, bro.
He's bleeding.
Just like you like this. Just walk away.
I threw it in our face, mate.
Fuck off, bro. Who the fuck do you think you are?
Dude, what the fuck? Dude, stop! Dude, get the fuck off of him! Get the fuck off of him! Now! Dude, get off! Dude, yeah, get the people from me!
He tried to grab.
Guys!
He tried to grab his bag. That's his bag.
Get the fuck out of here.
Hey, I got this all on video.
Guys,
I got this all on video. Your face is all over this fucking video. Please, him.
Get out of here. Get out of here, mate.
Holy shit!
What are you doing, mate? What are you doing, bro?
This guy's fucking.
Get out of here, mate. Huh? Huh? Mate, get up.
Don't fucking move! Mate, what are you doing now? What are you doing now?
No, mate.
Are you alright?
What? No, I'm fine.
Is that your
I'm fine.
blood?
Huh?
Is that your blood? You're covered in blood.
Where?
It's all. Yeah.
Doing now?
I don't know. I just heard commotion.
Thank you for coming
I
out.
thought you were trying to silence you guys.
He
you know what
was.
I mean?
He literally, he
Fucking
came up
hell.
out of nowhere, started ripping signs off there. Oh God, I'm shaking. Started ripping signs off there, tried to throw them at us, and then he just started.
Why the fuck am I covered
He
in
just
blood?
started attacking us. He just
Who-
started attacking us out of nowhere.
What are you doing now?
This is not my blood. Whose blood is this?
Excuse me, I got everything on video.
Mate, just play that for me. Yeah, sorry.
What a fucking retard.
I think we think that the blood on his hands is from when he ripped those signs. I think he's cut his hands on those.
Yeah, excuse me, sir.
Just stand over there for me.
Sorry, mate. Sorry, mate.
So, first off, I'd just like to get your unfiltered reaction to that video to start off with.
That's one of the reasons why I've moved out of London.
Yeah, I bet.
Literally, I've lived in London all my life. I walk out, I had to take my watch off, leave my wallet indoors, leave my phone indoors because of people just like that.
Yeah.
So there was a number of issues there. I do want to say there's a difference between them two incidents, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
The main one is they was in a confined space on public transport, right? So they didn't have any other options, right? So one of the things, unless you're putting yourself in more danger by doing the reverse. In other words, you either confront the situation or you don't. Is to do it as calmly as possible. To be fair, in the second video, it was all calm, pushing him back. The free person originally, the bigger fella that was just walking him away, that was very much, spot on. Then something else happened with the bag, which I couldn't quite work out, which I don't want to comment on, only because I don't want to I don't want anyone saying anything or drawing inference if I was to comment on it. But that was the bag incident. The biggest point there was he was obviously being violent. Just to make sure everyone's aware of this who's watching, because this is really important. People don't realise this, right? There's something called battery, and there's then something called ABH, GBH with and then GBH with intent and various other things, right? So people must understand assault, right? The reason why they say assault and battery is because the assault is the threat of violence, right?
Right.
So if someone is acting in a way that they are threatening you with violence, you can use violence. In other words, they don't even have to throw a punch at you. If it's fairly obvious, that's what they're going to do. They're being very aggressive, and you need to make a move first, right? That is completely lawful, and it's still self-defense, right? So, and again, there's lots of cases where it states that. The other issues are quite obvious. He's then entered the middle of the road. He's carried on. He's tried to do a flying kick, which tells me that he is possibly trained, even though he wasn't very good at it. He done a flying kick, and he could be trained in martial arts. That is also quite important. Because if he is, right, you can. So let me put it this way: the difference between a boxer giving you a right hander in a pub, a trained boxer, a licensed boxer, they will get a lot longer prison sentence if they hit someone than
because they're aware of the damage it can do and the strength that they have.
exactly. And judges will. They look at that because they believe that you and your fists and your feet and your knees and your head, if you are a trained fighter, right, you are a lethal weapon. You don't have to use a weapon, you are the lethal weapon. So it's a difference. So when he's doing things like that, I would look at that and say, that's interesting that he's tried all the flying kick stuff, right? Even though it looked like his jeans was too tight to attempt it. But then on the other side of it, he's gone up to the vehicle, the police vehicle. He's then just smashed the mirror off, which is criminal damage to a police vehicle. It's obvious that that police officer felt in danger because he would not have used the taser, right, unless he thought he was in danger, right? And it looked like he was on his own in the van, right? So that's one of the most, it's probably a correct way to use in the use of a taser because of what he was doing. Bearing in mind, he's just punched the wing mirror off the vehicle, and then he's picked it up and thrown it at you, right?
Yeah.
Which again is in effect, he's used a weapon against you, even though it's a wing mirror. It is a weapon that he has used against you. So who's the person who's in trouble? Him, right?
Yeah.
But it depends on what they're going to do and how they actually look at it.
So I'd like to give you context to a few of the different moments in the video and then get your opinion again, because obviously police discussions are ongoing and there were numerous people involved in the video. I was the person filming, and basically we were all stood outside waiting for a cab, and then we heard a sound which made us all turn around, and it was this guy ripping off those yellow no parking signs that you saw in the video. Now, I didn't hear it myself, but one of the other guys said that he thinks he heard one of the guys say, "Oh, what, did you get a parking ticket or something?" And then all of a sudden the guy starts literally, we were all kind of like stood in a circle because we were chatting, and then he kind of just comes into the circle and is just going in everyone's face, shouting expletives, spitting a lot. And there was one point where he said "F you" to me and he spat all in my face. And I think I reacted and I went, "Oh, he spat at me." And then it was at that point when one of my colleagues, which was the first guy to perform that takedown, he then took him down because he thought that I was in danger, immediate danger. Then obviously he went round, the bar staff came out. All of the blood that you saw in the footage was from this guy's finger. He'd cut it on the sign, and because he was going like this and pointing, he kept flicking blood. We all had, blood splatters on our clothes and everything. One of my colleagues had some on his face. It was not nice. Then when the guy walked round the car, the incident with the bag, that bag actually belonged to my colleague, who had quickly put it down when he realised what was going on. And the crazed guy then went and tried to steal the bag, and then obviously my friend went and rugby tackled him and then attempted to restrain him, and I assume that he was attempting to perform citizen's arrest, at which point the bar staff was saying, get off, and then that's when he
hadn't seen what was going on.
No, so the bar staff was the young blonde lad, I believe was the bartender, and the guy in the grey t-shirt and the orange shorts, I believe was the owner of the bar. And he didn't know, I told him after, but he didn't know that bag belonged to my friend, so he thought he was just tackling him for no reason.
Yeah. Get that.
Also, the first man to perform a takedown, his name's Dave, One Gen Media on YouTube, and he did a reaction video to the video where he put his side of the story in. And after Steve took him down after stealing the bag, the crazed guy then went to get up again, and Dave slowed it down, and he showed that when the guy tried to grab Steve's arm, the way he was grabbing it, it looked like some kind of martial arts maneuver in which he was about to attempt to break an arm. And that is why they then pushed him down again. And then obviously from there, when he was attacking the police van and everything is pretty self-explanatory from there. Now, obviously, being in that situation myself, I feel that if I was there on my own, it would have gone very differently. I definitely felt like I was very much in danger, and after I was in shock. I'm, not embarrassed to admit that I had a little bit of a cry because it was just a very stressful, shocking situation. So in my eyes, those men in that situation were acting in self-defense and protecting me as well. But I am worried that under this current legal climate and everything that we've just discussed, that they're going to be somehow criminally liable for acting on what I would argue is a logical instinct. So I was wondering if I could get your thoughts on what might happen.
Well, there's a couple of things I'll say to you. I don't like what you've been saying about ongoing discussions, right?
Mm-hmm.
Do not speak to the police. If you want to get a conviction, speak to the police, because they will find something to convict you for. You do not speak to them at all. You just say no comment, no comment, no comment, no comment. So
Okay.
part of the problem with videos like that is the police, if the police had just turned up and that they would it was obvious what the man was doing, because he punched the thing off the wing mirror off the vehicle. The only person that they could have relied on as evidence is the police constable himself. So none of you would have been arrested. So part of the problem is when you've got situations like this with these videos, they'll use that as evidence against you if you've done something wrong. But again, it is always about the moment. So you've also said a number of things. One, he was spitting at people. He spat at you. That's an offence, right? And that is actually assault or common assault, right? Even flicking blood at you, whether it was intentional or not, there has to be intent. If he's spat at you and he intended to do it, in other words, it's not just spit coming out of his mouth because he's shouting and hollering, he actually spat at you, that is common assault. Again, if he's going for the bag and he's picked up something that doesn't belong to him, that's theft. If he's actually picked it up and gone to take it away, attempted theft, you've intervened. Again, citizen's arrest. But any time if someone is becoming violent towards you, you can arrest them. A citizen's arrest. But remember, violence has to be proportionate to what he's actually doing. So, and that's why you saw the police officer get out of the van with his taser. He sat in the van. He's just turned up to an incident. He don't know what he's looking at. And I'm generally not too kind to police officers or police constables, but he's done the right thing, because that guy, in doing what he was doing, is just dangerous.
Yeah, absolutely. And I do wonder, I've made a post on X saying I was so grateful to the officer for stepping into action so quickly, especially when you see so many videos of what people call DEI hires in the police force. And to see a big strapping 6'2" firing straight into action was very much a relief, and I really hope that the Met Police, hires more officers like him. However, I would have been curious to see that had the man not attacked the police van and had the officer not seen, the flying kick and things like this, or spinning kick or whatever it was, that thing he did in those tight jeans, it was ridiculous, whatever it was. Had he not seen that, I wonder if he would have assumed guilt on our part.
The answer is there's no point in making that speculation. The problem, he'd seen what he's doing. He's just committed criminal damage to a police vehicle. And was still playing up when he got out of the van, and he's got out of the van with a taser. It doesn't. Nothing else really matters. The fact is that he did act, and he see what was going on. So I wouldn't go into speculation on that. You could be right. I mean, there's other instances where I've seen someone tasered for holding a screwdriver on a London bridge, who then jumped off the London bridge and died,
Oh,
trying to
wow.
get away from the police. So, there's lots of different things on there. The point is, he did act. Where was that, in London, or where was it?
Yeah, it was in London, near Leicester Square, I believe.
Right. So he probably comes from Cannon Street Police Station. I mean, he's acted in the way that he should do, which is to protect the public. But again, your colleagues who was there, whether they're protecting themselves or you, none of you was offering violence. None of you did anything, even from that video, that was wrong. So no one should be charged with anything. And everyone in this country, meaning the English, have, and even if you're on English soil, it applies to you. You have the right to citizen's arrest, which is what I've told people in the past, that these protests, if you're protesting and you have freedom of expression, which you do have, freedom of thought, freedom of assembly, and you are legitimately protesting, and the police, for example, draw batons, that is a threat of violence for no reason whatsoever. And you have the right, and if there's enough of you, to arrest the police that are pulling out their batons. Because
I'm sure.
That's assault. You're threatening to use violence against us when we are using our constitutional and common law rights to protest. But people need to know that.
There have probably been multiple situations where that method would have been applicable, but people just simply haven't known.
No,
so
I agree. I've seen loads of them. I mean, but if police officers and police constables they are responsible for their own actions. By the way, they are not. They're not governed by any corporation. All that's nonsense, right? They are crown servants, right? Their oath is to the sovereign. And as crown servants, you can go and read this from the police college own manual. They are personally responsible for their actions, right? That's why you need to sue them. That's why if they start doing things, I've seen other videos where they've headbutted people for no reason whatsoever, like police officers have done that. So, but this guy was clearly, this police constable was clearly protecting the public, right? And there's no excuses about what the guy did or was this wrong? They should just say, no, that's it. That's the end of it.
Yep. Well, thank you so much for your advice on that video. And obviously, thank you for your reaction to the other one. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Could you just tell everyone where they can find you, where they can see your work and your videos and everything like that?
So they can find me on Twitter, otherwise known as X, under English Exit. So just think English and then exit, because we're about self-determination. You can find me on Rumble, as probably the only platform that tolerates me at the moment. I've been banned 3 times on YouTube, banned on Twitter before, banned on Facebook. So I'm on Rumble. You can find me on YouTube, but it's a new channel. And to be fair, I'm not that interested in YouTube. But on Rumble, it's called the Full English Show or the Daddy Dragon channel. I can't remember what we're up to now, over 8,000 subscribers. So it will increase. But remember, Rumble is a true free speech platform. So we still have moderators, but the actual platform itself is a free speech platform, which is why the British are trying to take it down. Oh, can I just add? Also, the EnglishConstitutionParty.com and the English Constitution Society.co.uk. The society is about the education, and we do seminars all over the country.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for coming on, Graham.
No problem. Thank you.